Now, did you know that this week is Mental Health Awareness Week? And, we have mental health every week of the year, but it's good to take some time to actually focus on that and be aware. And, mental health doesn't mean necessarily that you're in distress. It's just like physical health. It's on a scale, and sometimes it's better than others. So I was actually I was trying to get hold of some different people to talk about this week, and they were all busy. They had other things on. I know at least one of them was off on holiday, so that was them taking care of their mental health. And then I thought, well, why don't I just jump on the radio and share some of my own story? It's a little bit tricky to do on my own, so I've invited my friend Cathy Jenke back into the studio. Hi, Cathy.
Morning, Lizzie. A privilege to be here with you and just thinking about what we're going to be talking about, a great gift and sacred ground. So you've got a bit of a story.
Yes, it's 20 years old now, and to be honest, the further away that it is over the years, the better it's been, because at the time it was such a harrowing experience. And I've talked about it a little in the past of when I had my son 20 years ago and got the old postnatal depression, except that it was a little bit more complicated and there was a bit of psychosis thrown in there. And they sort of liken that a little bit to being bipolar, in the sense that I remember having this feeling of being really elevated and like ridiculously kind of high, and then like being on a roller coaster and just dropping down and feeling just deathly terrible.
So you were aware of that?
Yeah.
You could feel it and see it within yourself, the high and the super high and the super lows?
Yeah, and my mother and other people close to me would have noticed something, but I didn't really look. It was all really about what I was feeling on the inside, and it was just so weird. And then I wasn't sleeping and all the things. And then, they put me on one medication that kind of made everything worse. And then they were like, oh, no, you don't need an antidepressant. You need a mood stabilizer. And then suddenly, it took like 6 weeks to get to that point. That was 6 weeks of kind of hell on earth. Although this beautiful little baby, he was such a darling. And every time I looked at him, he kind of centered me, and that was real difficult.
Were you aware that wasn't right?
Yes, except I was sort of a bit out of touch with myself. I was like saying things like, I don't think I'm sleeping. And people would go, oh, no, you probably are. And I was going, no, I don't think I am. Whereas now, if I didn't sleep for an evening, I would know. And I felt really weird. And yeah, I was aware something wasn't right, but it was just so out of left field. I'd never experienced anything like it. I had nothing to compare it to.
So what happened? Did somebody take you in hand? Did somebody take you to a doctor? Did somebody say, hey, Lizzie?
Yeah, well, at one stage I was starting to have these panic attacks, so they did take me to the doctor, and that was quite early on. And maybe, I can't remember when, but, the first week or two. And then they put me on this antidepressant, but then things got worse and they got more elevated in this very strange evening where I actually jumped out of a window, although I wasn't 2-story, it was just actually ground floor. And I was about 5 o'clock in the morning doing some weird dancing around in the driveway, quite ritualistic thing that I thought I had to get somewhere. And then suddenly everything changed, and the crisis team came, and they were like saying things to me like, you're quite emotional, do you know that? Because one minute I was apparently laughing, and then I was crying. I was kind of like, oh. And then they put me on the right drugs and on the right medication, and I started coming back down to earth.
Yeah. So what sort of things helped you through this? Because it's not an instant fix, is it?
No, it's not. And that was a very extreme thing. But I'd always been quite a black and white person before then. So I'm a much more graceful person since going through that. Life is not black and white.
Yeah.
Definitely getting on the right meds. That was unfortunate. And then the things that I think that for all of us we need to do to take care of ourselves, getting a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
At that point in my life, I needed to take medication to get to sleep. I'll tell you, once you get your sleep right, everything else in life, actually, you can function a lot better. Eating well, at that point in my life, people were making us lots of food. Just trying to eat healthy, get some sleep, some exercise. I just started off. I mean, you know me, I'm quite an exercise freak, but back then it was just sort of rebuilding my life. I'd walk the baby around the block for 10 minutes, and that was good, And then connecting with others and doing something, I think, that a lot of us forget to do, something that makes your heart sing, something that's playful.
How hard is it to do that? Like it sounds obvious, getting sleep, exercise, eating well, but when you're in that place of darkness
Yes.
and weirdness, it takes incredible energy even just to get out of bed.
Yeah, it does. When you're that extreme, you've just really got to get the medication right so that you can sort of be balanced, and then you can start to get your sleep. And then, I was fortunate. I had caring people around me that took care of me, family, and mainly family, a few good friends. And, that's extreme, but that's made me very aware of my own well-being. So when I start to feel a bit stressed and a bit out of touch, I sort of go, oh, am I okay? It's made me very self-aware.
Yeah, checking in on yourself.
Checking in on myself.
Yeah. How long did this last for you, Lizzie, the worst of it?
I think the worst was about the first 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. And then after that, everything started to settle down. And I was on medication, I think, for about a year. But honestly, my son's first birthday, you're excited it's their birthday, but then anniversaries can be really hard. So it would sort of bring up, this time I was do-dally.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just how I felt about myself. And some anniversaries it would be, no big deal. Even now sometimes it's like around my son's birthday I can feel a bit, whoa, and then it's like, on a cellular level, I think something in your body even just remembers and you're like, wow, that was intense.
Can I ask you about medication? Because for some people, that's a really difficult step to, I guess, be in a place to say, actually, I do need this and I do need this help.
I don't think I would have got, everything was just a mess. And I think the meds were the thing that actually sort of hauled my body into line, really, and then it enabled me probably to do those things that you need to do for yourself, like go for a walk around the block. When you're all over the place, you, like you say, you can't even get out of bed. But yeah, I know that sometimes, and particularly for some Christians, there can be this thing, that you shouldn't do that because you're a Christian. I just think it's just out of touch with reality. You wouldn't say that to somebody who broke their leg or had a heart attack or, no, don't bother about going to the hospital, we'll just pray. Well, let's pray and go to the hospital, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need that stuff.
Somebody listening now that's in a difficult place, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say that, one thing that we do in our lives, that we can be so busy doing all these things and we forget about ourselves. And something that is really important is to play. When you think about children, they play. Isn't it funny? You go to play a game of tennis. I play my guitar. You might have played a saxophone. You play with your grandchildren. You play with your children. And that's something in my life that actually was a big healing. I got back into playing my guitar. At that time, my son was such a great sleeper. As he got older, he'd do these 3-hour sleeps in the afternoon. I'd go downstairs. I'd paint in the garage. Even now, like, I literally have to pick up my guitar or do something like that. And even 10 minutes in, I feel myself go, or I go for a walk and I'm wanting to go for one later today. And there's this road that is near where I live. And it's like being out in Titirangi where you live. It's like you walk down this road and it's all bushy and it's just there's beautiful birds in the trees and it's really quiet even though it's off a main road. And I'm like, this road restores me.
That is a fact. Green space really does help. Lizzie, thank you for sharing. I know it's something that's very close to your heart. You have a great heart and compassion for those that do struggle in this area. And thank you for sharing your story.
Thanks, Cathy. If I could just say, this last week, I caught up with 2 people that I know, both Christians and both in a really hard place with their mental health, and it's just like, let's just accept that whether you're a person of faith or not, you're going to have health challenges in your life, and sometimes it's a mental health one, and it's so important to get the help that you need. Saying that, I know when you are in a bad way, it can be very hard to reach out, But even if there's just one person that you trust enough to be open and honest with, it will help.
Thanks, Lizzie.
Thanks, Cathy.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you can catch all our interviews on Star. See you next time.